Plus, David Lombardi was hanging with you over the weekend. Rookie minicamp.
Saw him very briefly. He is a world traveler. I want to see his passport. Lombardi, where have you not been on planet Earth? My God, I am impressed.
I actually haven't. I haven't been to East Asia yet. We wanted to go to Japan. We wanted to go to Japan in April, but it just didn't work out. So that's next. But I've technically been to Asia, because if you go to Istanbul, if you go to Turkey, you can cross the Bosphorus and say that you've been in Asia. But that's cheating. So haven't been in
where have
really
you been just
Asia
recently? I can't keep up with you. You've been all over the place.
We did London, Brussels, Amsterdam, Prague, Verona, Italy.
I was Amsterdam.
And then,
Amsterdam
Amsterdam was good.
I got to do me some Amsterdam. How are the cafes in Amsterdam?
Yes, they're nice.
You knew I was.
But the best part was Ticino, which is the Italian-speaking region of Switzerland, which is where my Lombardi name comes from. Where does Papa come from in Italy?
San Felice, just east of Napoli, which I may be going to in July.
Oh, so very nice.
We will see.
So you're a Southerner. I'm a Northern Italian.
Yeah, in the far southern east, southeast. So maybe we'll go there in July. So you went to London. I want to get your thoughts on the Jets game, but we are hearing a little rumor. Tomorrow we're going to find out at 4 o'clock in the morning, the international games. And one of the Niner opponents, the Vikings, are scheduled to play in London and Tottenham. Are we going to Minneapolis for Juicy Lucy's, or are you going back to London maybe in the fall? What are you hearing on that game?
I would hope for the latter. No offense to Minneapolis. I really would like to see a 49ers game in Europe. And the talk earlier coming out of the owners' meetings, that it didn't seem like there would be an international game. And then the NFL UK Twitter account posted some cryptic message with Deebo Samuel on the picture. So I don't know if they were hinting at the 49ers coming, but it would have to be against the Vikings. And I don't know when it would be, but
October sometime,
We
right?
need to call Will Gavin.
I was going to say, Will, text Will Gavin, John. He'll know.
I'm going to text
That's our guy from UK.
Yeah, he's crazy. Yeah, that would be cool.
So what do you think of the Jets? It's obviously the storylines are just dripping. Head coach, the players on the Jets, obviously Aaron Rodgers. Just your thoughts about the opener on Monday Night Football against the New York Jets?
Well, it will be the first time that we see Aaron Rodgers with the Jets, right? Because he lasted all of 3 or 4 plays in the season opener last year. That was also on Monday Night Football. So there's that. There's obviously Brock Purdy on the other side against a Jets defense that's really good. This was a top 3 defense last year. Jeff Holbrook is their coordinator. Robert Saleh is obviously the defensive-minded head coach. They have 2 49ers connections right there. You had Charvarius Ward and Sauce Gardner with a little bit of a Twitter beef after the Super Bowl. Gardner talking about the 49ers, and then Ward was telling him to be quiet. So that adds a little spice to the game. You have some ex-49ers on the Jets side, including Solomon Thomas and Javon Kinlaw up front. So, yeah, a lot of storylines. And I think with the Jets, if you can get any sort of offensive production, which I would assume that you would get, even if Aaron Rodgers isn't the Aaron Rodgers of old, then it's not going to be an easy team to play just because that defense is loaded.
I think the best storyline is Leonard Floyd knocked out Rodgers and Hassan Reddick knocked out Purdy.
Oh, damn.
You got those guys.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
New teams.
I realized Floyd. I forgot that Reddick was,
Yeah, he's on the Jets now, so you got those guys.
Yep.
I mean, that's fun. I don't know what you think of Rodgers. My thought is we haven't seen him in a long time, but he doesn't take care of himself exactly like Tom Brady. I just wonder how he's going to age.
He's
into
been
this
to
whole
Amsterdam,
thing.
I think,
Yeah,
John. Was he with you in Amsterdam, David?
I mean, we love the Aaron Rodgers story in the Northern California, and we know what they've done in the playoffs. But I mean, do you expect Aaron Rodgers to be Aaron Rodgers?
I mean, at some point, age catches up to everybody, right? I think it caught up to Brady there in that last year as well. So he's closing in on 40 if he's not there yet, and I don't expect him to be as good as he was in his prime, although he did have a couple primes, right? He had the prime in the mid-2010s, and then he really slowed down. He didn't have a good 2019 season. The year that the 49ers beat the Packers in the NFC title game was a real down year for Aaron Rodgers, and it looked like, that slide was beginning. And I think that's when they drafted Jordan Love, and then he roared back to life in 2020 and 2021. So, well, I don't know if he's got a third prime in him, but he is getting up there in age.
And that's going to be a rare home opener for the 49ers, and it will be on Monday Night Football, first week of the year against Robert Saleh and the New York Jets, which will be so intriguing. So tomorrow night we're going to find out at 5 o'clock the full schedule, David. At 4 a.m. we'll find out about the international games, and maybe it's a trip to Tottenham to play the Vikings. But first of all, it's a great schedule because you got so many rematches from last year's playoffs. You're playing Green Bay again. They're playing the Detroit Lions again. At Lambeau, Detroit's coming to Levi's. Obviously, a rematch with the Chiefs. How many times do you think the Niners will be in prime time? You think it'll be maxed out? What's the number, 5 or 6? And then we're also hearing a rumor they have to go to Buffalo to play the Bills in Western New York. It may be on Christmas. So we know about the Jets and the opener on Monday Night Football. What are your thoughts about the rest of the schedule?
Wouldn't Christmas be on a Wednesday this year?
It is. It is on a Wednesday. Yeah. It's a Wednesday.
Yeah, this would be. I know that's a new addition to the schedule.
There's two games on Christmas this year. One's on Netflix.
Yeah, the only day is Tuesday, right? That they wouldn't be playing
I think
year.
It would be wild if the NFL gave the 49ers 2 Christmas games in a row, right? Last year they had one against the Ravens, and this year would be if what you're saying happens would be against the Bills and Buffalo of all places on Christmas. You could get snowed in there, so. I think they'll get the max allotment of primetime games. I mean, what I always think about is last year, this team broke all the records in jersey sales. They also, according to some of those fan tracking websites, averaged about 50% of the crowd at away games, which had never happened before. So the 49ers are, I think, the hottest commodity in the NFL right now. They just have so many star players on the team, and they've been good for so many years. But the only thing, that's stopping themselves from calling themselves America's team is the fact they haven't won a Super Bowl yet. But if they can win a Super Bowl, then they're going to have claim to that, right? With how they've just thoroughly dominated the fan interest around the league. So I think the NFL is going to want to give them the max allotment of primetime games.
David Lombardi joining us, and again, the 49ers are going to open up Week 1 Monday Night Football against Aaron Rodgers, Robert Saleh, the whole crew, and the Jets on Monday Night Football. It looks like it's standalone. They're saying it's going to be a 5:20 start. As far as rookie minicamp, you and Pop were down there over the weekend. Anything Pop jump out at you? I know they're just running around in shorts and kind of finding their way, but anything jump out?
I really like the way that Ricky Pearsall moved. I think you could tell just by looking at him for 5 seconds, this guy moves like a first-round receiver. The question still is, will he be strong enough to deal with some of the more physical defensive backs in the NFL? Because he's listed at 189, 190 pounds. But when I look at him, I think that the quads and the base is strong. And I think that's what the 49ers really like about him, that he can move like a Dante Pettis, but that he's tougher and has a stronger lower body than Dante Pettis. And, I think it was a very clear reaction from the 49ers in 2019, the year after they drafted Pettis, because they thought that he separated really well, but then they started to feel that he might not have been physically tough enough to deal with press man coverage in NFL. I think that the very next year they drafted the inverse type of receiver in Deebo Samuel, who obviously was built like a brick and could physically manhandle any defensive back, but he wasn't as good of a separator. I think that there's some hope that Ricky Pearsall can be a hybrid of both. And just given the way that he moved, he's got that little stutter step. He's got the shoulder drop. His dad, who was a receiver in Northern Arizona, obviously taught him all the nuances of how to set up defensive backs and just all the nuances of receiver movement as he was growing up. Looking at how he can move, if he can combine that with some of the toughness that I think that he showed on tape at Florida, the 49ers can get themselves a nice hybrid receiver who could play inside or outside. Beyond that, it's really hard to tell much just because the 49ers weren't really scrimmaging, and it was just the rookie quarterbacks and a tryout QB out there. Body-wise, I looked at Malik Mustafa and I said, this guy really looks like a mini linebacker, which is interesting to me because he played this position at Wake Forest where he was all over the defense on third downs. And I think that the 49ers will definitely like moving him around the formation. He was one of the better blitzers from the safety level in college football last year. And also Dominic Pooney, the lineman that they picked out of Kansas, he carries his 313 pounds really, really well. He walked into the room, and there's no baby fat on this guy. It's not like you're going to have to rework his body. I think there's a little bit of that happened with Aaron Banks when they picked him out of Notre Dame in the second round in 2021. I think Dominic Pooney physically is close to ready to go and at the very least be a sixth man for the 49ers body-wise here in 2024.
Yeah, we'll know more when Phase 3 of the organized team activities start on Monday, coming up on May the 20th, and that's when the veterans will be out, and in particular Brock Purdy. So we've asked you a lot about, Brandon Ayuk's contract, and we've had some movement in the wide receiver room as far as Amon-Ra St. Brown of the Lions got a huge extension, and Jared Goff yesterday, and we kind of heard it was coming from Marin Catholic and Cal, and via the Rams, got a 4-year extension worth up to $212 million, David, reportedly $170 million guaranteed. Jordan Love has got to have his contract reworked, and something's got to go with Dak Prescott. But just give me your thoughts, because you're so good at balancing the game of football with the finances of football. What do you think Jared Goff's contract extension with the Lions, how does that impact Brock Purdy and the 49ers?
Listen, I don't think that Jared Goff is a bad quarterback. I think he's a good QB. But a lot of the limitations that people allege that Brock Purdy has, incorrectly allege that Brock Purdy has, Jared Goff actually has. And I'm talking about the ability to deliver outside of structure. And I think 49ers fans are very, very familiar with this. You saw when Jared Goff was with the Rams and the 49ers couldn't pressure him, then he was a perfectly rated passer. As soon as the 49ers got a defensive line that could pressure him, Jared Goff really started to struggle. I think a microcosm of that was featured in the NFC Championship game when the Lions were rolling with the run game in the first half. Jared Goff looked great. When it came time to beat the pressure and make some throws down the stretch as the 49ers were coming back, he didn't look as good. A lot of people say that Brock Purdy is limited in such a way, but I think the actual football people, the 49ers themselves, who are going to have to make this decision to pay Brock Purdy, I think that they very starkly disagree with that. Brock Purdy was one of the best quarterbacks off schedule in the entire league last year. And I think ultimately that's what is going to get Brock Purdy paid ultimate top dollar in the NFL. So if Goff is at $53 million per year, which is second to only Joe Burrow, I've been saying for a long time that Purdy, if he continues his current trajectory, will be a $50 million plus quarterback. But Goff making this much essentially opens the door for the possibility of Purdy signing for 60 next year. I don't know where exactly the market, how quickly it will progress between now and when Purdy signs, but it's definitely going to be more than Jared Goff if he continues at his current trajectory. There's obviously still a year that Purdy has to deliver, but we might see this market hit around $60 million per year for quarterbacks in 2025. And it's wild to think of, but that's the going rate for the position. And let's be honest, Brock Purdy so far has been good enough to warrant that kind of talk. And it's a matter now of adding one more season to the sample to solidify that before he's actually eligible to receive the contract.
Well, just to your point, I looked up 2025, the top 10 in 2025, so the year that he can start to get paid. Mahomes is at 67 that year. Watson's at 64. Allen's at 60. The average top 10 is 54.
Yeah. So
so what you're saying is correct, because Love's going to sign. Some other guys are going to sign. By the time he hits that season, the average is going to be close to 60 for the top 10. So he's going to sign that kind of deal.
It's mind blowing. But again, he's got to put in one more year. He's got to stay healthy for that 1 year. It's not signed, sealed, and delivered. You know, the way that the CBA is set up, you can't get paid until after year 3, which puts a whole heck of a lot of pressure on Brock Purdy in this season, puts a whole heck of a lot of pressure on Shanahan, on the offensive line, on the receivers. You know, it's not a given at this point. So that's why I qualify everything with if he continues at this trajectory. And the trajectory right now is that Brock Purdy was the top-rated quarterback, the most efficient quarterback in the league over his 1.5 seasons, and he was an MVP finalist in 2023. So if he does that again, he's going to be very worthy of top 1 or 2 quarterback money. You know, it's him and Mahomes if he does that again here in 2024.
I know the answer to the question, but I'll throw it out to you. Has anybody ever gone from making under $1 million a year to potentially, and we'll see how they structure the deal and backload it, to 60? You're going from 0 to 60 or 1 to 60? I mean, obviously, that's never been done. So how much is riding on Brock Purdy's season this year, not just for the franchise, David, but for Brock Purdy and his family?
It's NFL history because nobody's ever signed for 60 at the time of signing, right? They have these backloaded contracts that may be worth 60, but nobody's signed for 60 over the length of a deal. And I don't think anybody's ever gone from literally the lowest slotted draft pick, 262, to a quarterback mega deal. So we've never seen anything like it on both ends. And that's what makes this season this crazy, crazy hinge point.
Yeah, it's nuts, man. Hey, David, as always, thanks for the insight, man. We appreciate it, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, thanks,
You're the
guys.
best.
Amsterdam. Next time he's going, I want to go with him.
Yeah, that's the best.